Warmest welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining this webinar. Today, we are introducing two brand new sparkly AI features here in Brilliant Assessments. I'm Sophie Oxley. I'm the product marketer for Brilliant Assessments, also known as the person who's been emailing you and reminding you to join this webinar. I'm joined today by our founder and CEO, Mr. Graham Frost, who will be demonstrating both of these new features called AI Suggest and AI Interpretation. So what we're going to be covering today in the webinar. First, we're going to talk through AI Suggest, which is our assessment building and report text building AI tool. And then we're going to jump into AI Interpretation, which is a more advanced feature that generates prompt-based scoring and feedback. And then finally, we'll wrap up with that Q&A. Quick little note on how this may affect the plans. So AI Suggest will be available on the base plan, which is what all current customers are on today. But we're also introducing a new plan level, and that's called AI Plus. And that's what will unlock access to AI Interpretation. But that said, if you like what you see today, both features will be available to you on the 14-day free trial when the feature is released on July 28th, which is my birthday. So thank you, Graham, for the birthday present. Absolutely love it. And if you are an existing customer, you can reach out to our customer success team or support@brilliantassessments.com, and they will be able to enable these features for you as soon as they are available, because we want to make sure that you can also try interpretations for 14 days for free as well. All in all, can't wait to see what you all think about these features and what you do with these powerful new features. If you do have any thoughts and feedback after today's session, please feel free to reach out to us. We would love to hear what you think. And so with that, I'm now going to hand over to Graham.
Great. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. And you can see the slide. We've got the boring bit to start with, but only part of the good reason why it's boring is because there's nothing to see here, as you'd say, and that there's no security implication to what we're doing here. Now, that's because the way we're doing it is we're passing from our AWS platform, we're talking to the Microsoft Azure platform, and it is Microsoft have a relationship with OpenAI, which we found was the best model to use for this. So we're using that, and part of that, we've configured it so that OpenAI doesn't store, nor does Microsoft, anything in the transaction. They just answer a question and nothing's retained. So therefore it can't be used for training, and it has no security implication because it's not there. Now, you'll notice in ChatGPT, if you've used that it retains history, and that's quite important for the context of the conversation. So seeing we've asked OpenAI not to store anything, we store that back on our secure database. And every time we carry on with the conversation, we will pass the history as well. So that maintains the context. Okay, as Sophie said, we're going to start with AI Suggest. And the way that works is it assists you in building assessments. So we'll go in here and add an assessment. Now, what I'll do is I'll just go in and give it a name, and you'll see the name actually gives it a bit of a clue what it's about. So we'll start with that. So we're going to create an employee wellness assessment, and we could put in a description, which would be a good thing to do because we actually pass that to AI as well as part of the explanation. So if you have a paragraph describing what you're trying to do, that's quite useful. That can be as long as you like, even though there's a small box here. So I'll just save that and go to the builder. Okay, so you see here a new button has arrived, AI Suggest, and it looks like it's not on the bottom, but if we go down here, you've got it in the add section, you've got it down there as well, but we'll just use this one at the top. And you see we can add a section or a subsection, so we'll start by adding section. Okay, so this is the prompt that for the conversation we're having with AI. And so we're equating the word topics to sections, and then we'll have subtopics for subsections. It's just a more conversational word than sections, if you like. But where has this prompt come from? We have pre-populated these prompts in all of your tenancies. All of your sites have got these already there. And there, what we have found works quite well in the conversation with AI. But as you become more and more experienced with them, you can go and change them. So you can come in here and change the wording for it. So if you change it in here, it'll change it permanently. And every time you use it, it'll use the new prompt. But if you just want to change it for one on the fly, you can leave this as it is and just change it in the prompt that we were looking at. So I can change this here if I wanted to. But I'll give it a run to start with. And you can see it's come with this, and it's come with quite a few topics. And I feel that's probably a few too many. So I'm going to go back and give it a clue that I want a few less than that. So I'm going to just put top 8 in there just to give it that clue. And I'll run it again. And now I've got a more manageable list. I'm pretty happy with that list. I can change it. Oh yeah, there is one with a full stop. I'll just take that full stop off. So I can change these in any way I want to. This is a drag and drop interface. So if I decided that any of them, not in a bad order actually. Well, you might say, oh, well, that social wellness should move up. So you can move them around, you can change them, you can delete them. So you've got complete control of them. And then you can, when you're happy with them, you can save sections. If you wanted to get rid of section 1, you could just replace current sections. Or you already had done this and then you thought, no, I'm not liking this, and go back and re-prompt it. Then you can get rid of them all by doing that. Now I'll just refresh my screen, and we've got those as sections. So then we go into physical health section, and we'll go the next step and we'll add the subsections. So what are the 5 subtopics? So this has already got the top 5 for an employee wellness assessment. And I'll just give that a run. Okay, so this is for physical health. So I might say, well, fitness probably should be higher. And I can change it in any way I want to. Once again, yeah, that one sneaked in with a full stop again. And then I'll save that. And so now we have those 5 subsections. So you guessed it, we're going to now add the questions. Now, AI needs a little bit more information when you're adding the questions for them to work well in an assessment format. So what we've done is you can specify the answer format, and you can also pick from the default answer groups. So most people on are customers, so they'll know what this is, but for others, this list here is default answer groups. So they're pre-configured answers that you can add to or change. So these are the ones that come out of the box, as it were. So they're already sitting on all the sites and all the free trials, but you can add to them. So if you want a different wording, then you can just change one that's there or add to it. Now, it's important in 2 different ways. It's going to add the answers for you, which is going to save going through that as another step, but it's also telling AI the type of answers that you want to have, and that will affect the way it frames the question. So you think it's going to frame the question differently when you say always to never, as opposed to agree to disagree. So the wording of the question will be different. So we need to give it that clue. And so now we see how often do you, so always to never type questions. And these are all pretty good. Again, drag and drop, anything I want to change in here, but they all look pretty good, so I'm going to save them. So there we are. We've got all those questions on fitness, have all gone in there. If I go into one of the questions, it's all built with all the scoring. I could add instructions if I wanted to. Everything's as normal in the question. So it's really a starting point to build it out. Now, I think the biggest use for this will be prototyping, where people are testing the system. And because at the end of the day, most of our customers are experts in their field, and they know a lot better what the question should be than AI does. So most of our customers won't need this, but to get a prototype to see whether the system's going to do what they want it to do, great, nice and fast, save a lot of time and messing about. But where we know the biggest part of building an assessment is building the feedback based on what they score. And that always takes the longest. It is the bit that people tend not to have pre-canned. And so they spend a lot of time thinking about that and slows down the process. And so we see AI as being an assistance more often in that scenario to our existing customers. So let's go into that. So I'll just go in and edit the subsection. You can do this at any level, the section, the subsection, the actual answers, but anybody who's had a demo from me before knows I favour the subsections. And just to explain to people who are not users, we have ratings. So ratings are score ranges. And in this example, we have green, orange, and red. And so the highest scoring is green, and then moderate, and then low scoring is red. And so what we're doing is we're automatically taking all the questions in the subsection, working out the percentage score that they've got, and then assigning it to the relevant rating. And that drives the text that is going to be output to the report or to the results screen. So however you're using that. So in this green one, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to do AI suggest for that. And you see here in the prompt, rather than referring to it as the rated green, we've given it the score range. So we've told it they've scored pretty well. So that's obviously a lot more relevant to AI than green is. So that's sort of, and there's quite a bit. Right, and it's also mentioned the score, which I don't like. So I'm just going to go back and reset that. And I'm going to say, don't mention the score. Right, so I've done it without mentioning the score. And so, yeah, this is a positive. To continue progressing, consider the tips. Yeah, okay. So we'll save that. And you saw you had an option to replace if you already had text. But of course, you change this. If you were using it to build it for your assessment, it'd just be, this is okay. But it's all about building the prompt really well to get what you need. And you can be quite prescriptive in the prompts, and you'll see that more in the interpretations part of the demo. How you talk to AI really drives the way it's going to build it for you. Okay, so I'm going to do the same for the orange. And we'll do the red. And you see 0 to 50. So it's remembered that don't mention the score. Yeah, so this is down to a more active lifestyle, yeah. So you could say, well, why don't you just build them all together? But while that would look nice in a demo, that's not how people would be using it, because you're using it as a tool. It's not making it the whole assessment for you. You're using it for suggestions, not to build the assessment. So we do it bit by bit, and you're always in control of it at every level. So as I said, you can also have that at section level. So you've got the AI suggest on there. So if you're doing the text at section level, that's fine. And if you were doing a question and you wanted to put them on some of the answers, you've got it on there as well. So you can AI suggest there and have individual answers. So it's really totally dependent on how you're building your report, what level of detail you're wanting. It really is putting a lot of detail in today. It's interesting because we did this demo last night and it was quite a lot smaller. Now, and that's one thing to realize about AI is it's like if you ask two people who are expert at a particular subject the same question, they will hopefully give you the same advice, but they'll word it completely differently. And so that's what effectively we get here with AI. It gives you the same information, but sometimes it's more verbose and other times it's very succinct. But you can lead it in that. So I could fix that by coming in here and say not more than 20 words, or I could tune it and get it exactly the way I want it, but I won't spend a lot of time on it. Okay, so that's AI Suggest with the rating text I didn't mention, but as well as being able to do it at answer, subsection, section level, you can do it for the whole assessment on the rating as well. So that's all complete. Okay, so probably as Sophie hinted at, the thing that's a bit more exciting for us is the AI interpretations. And so we'll just go through that now. Now, how I'm going to show you that is I'm first going to go in and I'm going to show you a response for this assessment that Sophie built, actually. So as you look at interpretations, all of this example was built by Sophie. So it's built by a business person, not a technical person. So, if you think, well, is this all a little bit... It's not. It's really easy to do. And we've got really good tools to test it as you go along. So it's really aimed at our market, which is business people rather than technical people. So this is typical of an assessment that we have in the system where there's questions like this. But then in this next page, it starts changing. Now, we do have clients who do this, where they have a lot of these text boxes, some numerics. But the problem with this for most people is you couldn't score it. And so assessments don't tend to look like this. But you can see we've got a whole lot of text being entered. So that's all about the founders. I should step back and explain the premise of this example is this assessment is for an investment company and they invest in small startups. And so this is an application assessment for startups to apply for investment. And so they fill in, maybe they go off the website, they fill in the information, and then that information will go to the investment people, and then they'd have a person who goes through, read it all, assess it, and decide whether it's going to be shortlisted for investment, and then go on through their process. So what we're using AI for is shortcutting that and giving the assessor a tool to help him or her do that really quickly. So if you've ever know much about investors, this is the typical sort of stuff they want to know. We've got the elevator pitch here. We've got a bit more. How does the product work? What's the business model? Market size? A whole lot of demographic type information. How many users have you got? All of that sort of stuff. The technology, longer term goals. How would you spend the money? And then on the last page, we've asked them to upload a whole lot of documents, their pitch deck, their capitalisation table, an Excel spreadsheet with their financial projections, and then a few other things that they've loaded as documents. And then once they've done that, they hit next and they go to the end of the assessment. So in this scenario, you wouldn't give any feedback. There's no results page there. There's no click on a link to go to download your report, because in this scenario, the report's going to the investment company, not to the respondent. So that's all they get. Okay, so if we go now and we have a look at what the investment company is going to see, they would come in here and view the report. Now, this initial bit is based on normal scoring. So that is those questions at the beginning. And there are only 3 questions. She got 3 of them when she scored, so she's got 67%. So that's that situation normal. But this down here is actually based on scores that AI has calculated. And so they're all been calculated by AI, and they're more impressed with other bits like the technology than they are things like the financials. And then we come down here and we have an analysis of all of the information that's been uploaded. So see here, she entered the names of the founders and one of them, and you'll see it coming up a few times, so I'll point it out. One of them is only 40% working on the company, and he's also working on a company called ZimmerPay Technologies, 50%, I think. And that comes up as a concern all the way through. So it picked up that little bit of information and it keeps using it when it's, telling us about whether this is a good investment or not. So that's the one concern that comes through. But we've asked that these specific questions: are the founders capable and committed? Do they have relevant domain expertise? Is the team complete? So those are the specific questions that we've asked them. And then we've fed what they've entered into the founder information section. We've given it that information. It's done the analysis and it's come up with this recommendation. Down to the conclusion, they're all competent people, but David's split focus will continuously be mentioned. So that is actually all one merge string. So the way it works as far as building the report is concerned, we just have a merge string. It appears like an answer. And so it's a merge string to pull in an answer. And that's all one merge string. So a lot easier to build the report as well, and they run faster. This is a second merge string. So this is where we've asked it questions about the market risk. So do a bit of analysis on the market, and it's talked about the target market. And so it's pulled out different things. We didn't mention in the document, these were the main players. It's got that knowledge, obviously, that Salesforce, HubSpot, and Dynamics are the big players in this market. So it's combining its intelligence, obviously, with the information that's been fed. Product traction, again, one merge string, one AI question to do this. So concerns about flat fee tier and all of these things. Risks for investors. In conclusion, again, all in one area. For the technology, we asked it to explain any jargon that was used in the technology so that non-technical investors would have that. So these terms were all used in the section that they entered on technology, just a little explanation of each one so that they could be understood, and then into the risks around technology. And then finally, the financial risks. So this is, you can see here, revenue growth. So that's come out of the spreadsheet. So the spreadsheet had the year-by-year revenue. So it's concerned about that sort of growth. And, it's very aspirational, but we know that doesn't happen very often. And a bit of a concern about the burn and headcount increases and so on. And then it's looked at the capitalization table. So they uploaded a capitalization table which showed Eleanor had 40% of the company, David and Priya had 20%, the angel investor had 20%, so that was 100%. And we said, well, if we come in at 15%, what's that going to do? So it's built that table, it's recalculated everything, and a very simple question to tell it that's what we wanted it to do, but it's done a nice job of that. And so that is the end of the report. All of that is single merge strings. So there's 5, I think, merge strings other than the very top where we've got the chart. So there's 5 merge strings to pull in the thing, and they're just pulling in the answer report text. So really, really simple. And all of the formatting that you have in your report works exactly the same. So you can have your report looking much nicer than this. We've kept it simple because we want to focus on the AI, not on the report. And if you've used any of our new templates, they're really cool. And so, you'll have a much nicer looking report than this. But, this is a simple example. So how do we build it? One other thing I want to show you before I do that, I just want to come in here. As I mentioned, AI is just a tool to help the assessor, not necessarily the end game. So this gives you the opportunity to actually look at the interpretations that it's come back with and modify them. So you have the other choice, if you like, to download it as a Word document and change it on the Word document. But the advantage of changing it in here is it's recorded in the system what was actually put through to the Word document. So if you disagree with something that's put in here, you can change it, you can update it, you can rerun it from here. As I mentioned, you'll get different formatting and different layout potentially with a rerun. So you might say, well, let's see what it gets next time, and it may save me a bit of time. So you can do that. And when you've made the changes, you have the option of locking it. The advantage of that is somebody goes into the assessment, saves it at the end again, it will rerun all the interpretations. Because you may have changed some of the numbers, you may have changed one of the documents that was uploaded, and so it'll rerun them. But if you don't want that to change in that scenario, then you can just lock it. And you can come in here again and unlock it if you are changing all the documentation and you think, right, I need to get it to run again properly, just come in and unlock it. So yeah, you've got all of the interpretations questions there that you can update on a one-off basis. So I'm just going to go now into the building of it. And this page, all of these pages are as we saw in the response, so I won't dwell on them. But the page you didn't see is a page called Interpretations. It can be called anything you like, but it's uploaded as interpretations, and we indicate that on the section in the same way as we do it with calculations. Here are the questions, effectively, that we've created to do the interpretations. And you see here, this is just the name and so on. And down here, we start getting the meat of how this all works. So you see here the questions that we saw answered. Are the founders capable and committed? Do they have relevant domain expertise? Is the team complete? And is the founder dependency? And you come down here and you see, oh, merge strings. Our existing customers will know exactly what this is. And they're merge strings which pull information out of the system. So they're built in here. All of these are being built in a cut down version of the Merge Manager. So the Merge Manager for people who are not users is what we use in the results system and as a word add-in, which creates merge strings with a wizard type approach, where you say this is what you want, and then you make selections to tell the system exactly what you want to show. So this is what it creates. So the coding of this is irrelevant to you. And just to illustrate that, I'll just add one just to show how simple it is. So we've got different types of things we can pull in from the system. In the case of charts, we've cut it down to just tables, because tables just have the numbers. Because why would you want to hand a bar chart to AI and ask it to interpret it? You just want it to give it the numbers, and a table does that. One of the advantages of using tables is you could then have a table with the benchmarks in it as well, so you can give it that information. And when you're using this with a cohort report, like for a 360, you might split it by role. For a group assessment, you might split it by respondent. You might split it by classifier. So you've got all the flexibility of the merge strings that we have throughout the system has come into this. And so you can pass AI a lot of information to come out with its result. And I think this will be an area which is really interesting, how people use this is, giving it all the data that we have, all of the results of all of the scoring in the different sections or subsections, and asking AI questions about that, which traditionally would have been done with rating text, but you may be asking it different questions. The vast majority at the moment is just using answer text. So answer text is the answer to a question in a text box. It is the text that's been entered. If you had a single choice question and they answered agree, disagree, it'll be the word of the answer, so to be agreed. In the case of a long text, it's obviously all of the text. In the case of a document, it is all of the document. So we decode the document, be it an Excel spreadsheet, be it a PDF, a PowerPoint presentation. We decode it and then we pass all of the information in that document to AI. You can pass rating text, so you might pass it all of the information that you previously created out of the assessment and say, do you have any other recommendations on this, whatever you want to ask it. So all the rating text is available. The name of the person and the name of the subject if it's a cohort, so that's the cohort name, and the score in a couple of different formats. So in an individual one, you just use the Likert score or the percentage score, but when you've got a cohort, you might want to pass the minimum, maximum, or the range as well. So all of those things are available here, and that's 20 out of the close to 100 possible merge strings that we have in the reporting or results. So we'll just select answer text, and then we'll come in here and we'll say here which particular question we want the answer for. And so it might be, what does the company do? And that's it. We save that. And you can see it's formatted a merge string there. And that is literally all we do. We save it, and that will pull that information from the system into the query. So really simple to use and a little bit daunting when you're sort of looking at it if you haven't used the system before. But all the customers will agree once you get the hang of this, it's just really simple because you're using the merge manager, you're really ignoring what's over here. So we can see in this question, we've asked these questions and then we've passed it the information. So that's the building of it. But one of the really useful things is you can test it in here, and you can test it with multiple responses. So we looked at Eleanor's response before, so we'll pass that and we'll test it. Okay, so after a little delay, we have the answers to our questions. So we can see it's read in the information about the three of them. As usual, it's concerned about David, but all of that information has come out. And these are the questions we asked. So are they founders capable and committed, relevant domain? All of those were questions we asked. So it's answered those based on the data, provided a nice little summary, and even suggested a mitigation to David's issue. So that's all come from AI, and we'll go into the report in exactly that format, and you saw that when we produced the report. So really easy to use, but it is great being able to test it here because it's all in the way you phrase these questions. That's the skill, and you can trial and error here. If you don't like the answer, keep working on the question. Okay, and then so we'll come down here further. And we've got some fields here that are used for the numeric formatting. So if you've got numbers coming out, so you're asking it to return a number, the things about the formatting that we want there, but also the calculation of the score. So in the same AI interpretation, we want to do a score calculation as well. And you see we're asking that separately. So your wording's a bit shorter. And we have put in here a little bit of a hint, in that normally if you're asking it about risk, the higher the score, the higher the risk, whereas we want it to inverse that so we can present the chart as the higher the score, the higher the investability. So we've inversed it. And so there's a real tip on talking to AI, is just telling it little things like that. Really easy, really simple, but obviously changes everything. So we'll test that. I'd say talk amongst yourselves, but you can't because your microphones are muted. So. Okay, so what we have here is the derived score. So that's going to be passed back as a score. But you've also got AI's explanation of how it came to that score. So if you, while you're testing it, think, yeah, that's a bit tough, they're pretty good, these guys. They're never going to get a score higher than that while David's in that position. But all of that is explaining to you how it came to that conclusion. So you can use that to say, I need to rephrase the question because I can see why it thinks that, but that's not how our organization works or whatever. And so you can use it to optimize the way you ask the question. It doesn't go anywhere other than that. It is purely a testing tool. Now, one thing I didn't show you above, but it was up there as well. You can see what was passed to AI. It's got all the formatting in there. We don't alter it in any way. We don't take the formatting out. Obviously, when AI knows that that's just formatting and it just ignores it. But we don't change it in any way because there may be a nuance in there that is causing confusion and we don't want to take that away. So we just leave the formatting. So it's a bit strange to look at, but you can see that it's passed the information you expected. So that's good if you sort of think, well, is it reading the information that I've given it? Because you may have a problem with your merge string, you may have changed the sections around or something like that, and it's not getting the information. And if it had an Excel spreadsheet, you'd see the numbers from the Excel spreadsheet all sitting there. So you can see what it's done. So it's useful for just making sure that it's getting the information that you expected it to. Okay, and with the score, that's fed into a segmentation, and so team risk is the segmentation, and these are the segmentations that are on the chart at the beginning. So you can use it for scoring just as much as you can use it for the text of the report. Yeah, and you can see you can use classifiers as well. Okay, so I'm going to go to the top of this and just cancel out of there. And I'm going to go into another example. And we've got the same, and you can see here that we've got a slightly different format and that the founder's view of the market size and the different information that we've asked. But we've been a bit more prescriptive here. Provide the feedback in paragraph format with clear headings and limit the feedback to a total of 200 words. So you can be completely prescriptive in the way you ask the question and you get the answers exactly the way you want it. And you could add to something like this if you were, say, provide answers in English. And so French. If you were sitting in Canada, you'd say, it's going to save me a bit of time, and test that. And so you've got the English feedback, and then you've got the French version. So all about the way you phrase the question, the instructions you give AI, the world's your oyster, really. You can do a lot with this. So now, hopefully you see why we're excited about it, why Sophie's excited. She built this, as I said, so she's had the real world experience, and you can see she knows her subject, which is how people invest in startup software companies. So she knows her subject, but, it's a great example of the power of the AI interpretations. So I'm going to pass back to Sophie because we're into questions and answers.
Nice one, Graham. Thank you. And thanks for your kind words about the assessment. I can also vouch for the fact that, I think Graham's trying to say it quite nicely, I don't have a PhD. This was not hard to build. And so, yeah, I think it's something that you can definitely get up and running with quite quickly once you get into the hang of the prompt writing. So a couple of questions that we had. First one is a good one, which is, how do we turn the AI feature on?
Okay, so as Sophie mentioned at the beginning, it will be turned on for free trials. If you are an existing customer, we obviously want you to have the same opportunity to do a free trial of it, but you just contact support, they'll turn it on, and it'll be a manual process on our side to do this. We don't want you to have to establish a separate free trial or anything. So you can turn it on, and then they'll contact you a day before the 14 days is up, asking you whether you want to convert into one of the plans that has AI in it. The information that you enter won't be lost. You just won't be able to see it anymore if you don't do that. So we do have separate plans for the AI. So you just have to upgrade to one of those plans to get the AI functionality on a permanent basis. And then if you downgrade to an ordinary non-AI plan, then it turns it off again. So it's all just done by picking the subscription that you want to use.
Excellent. Quite a few questions on this one, Graham. Can you use the AI interpretation in cohort reports and for cohorts?
Yep. Exactly the same. So with cohorts, it works the same. The only sort of noticeable difference is the interpretations which we saw on the response are on the cohort, obviously. So it's a tab on the cohort. And we've built an example. We've shown you the single one. We've done a team diagnostic as well, or more specifically, Sophie has. And we wanted to keep this demonstration simple, but the team diagnostic is all three of the founders fill it in separately, and then they've got areas of expertise, so they answer parts of it. And yeah, that all works perfectly as well. So absolutely, you can do it with cohorts.
Next, if the assessment is in a non-English language, are the suggested recommendations in the language of the assessment?
Yeah, so you would write the question in the language.
Yeah, I certainly found that when I was testing this out as well. Okay, next we have a question about the formatting. This was asked at the time of presenting AI Suggest, but in the rating text subsection is the AI text written in HTML, so it will show up in the Word PDF report in the same way, that it doesn't require lots of editing and formatting.
Yes, that's right. So it's all formatted as we saw in the box. So where this comes from, I think, is people paste into the box and therefore they have to redo the formatting. And the reason why we have to do that is when you cut and paste from a website or you cut and paste from a Word document, there is all sorts of things that come with it. And so we have to strip all of that out because it's just a nightmare what comes in with it. So we have no choice but to strip it all out. When we're getting it from AI, we know where it's come from. We know the formatting is all perfect. And where it's not, we fix it within the system. And so all the formatting's valid. And as we saw, there were bullet points and things like that in what it built, and that'll go straight through perfectly. Yep.
Right. With AI Suggest, you showed the recommendations to improve, and those were question-based. Can the feature be used for providing an overall summary of findings and recommendations prioritizing within this feature, or is that just question-specific?
So you could pass it a table of all the scores for all the subsections, and you could say, what recommendations do you make over that, for example? So normally people do that at the moment in ratings, and they say, okay, so what's the top or what's the bottom scoring area? But it may be that the combination is actually more important. So in AI, you have more flexibility for that, where it can say, well, if you have these three issues, even though this one is the bottom scoring one, in fact, if you fix this other one, you'll fix them all. So, address that one first because maybe that affects your team, and getting the team working well is priority one, but you haven't actually scored lowest on that. So it can make a more nuanced evaluation, but certainly you can pass all the scores, all of the information, you can pass the rating text. AI can make a much more nuanced evaluation than you can now.
Cool. A couple of really important questions actually about the plans. We've got one asking us to just recap what the plans are, and another asking whether on the roadmap we will consider moving this to the monthly subscription as well.
We won't beat around the bush. The prices are basically double. And the reason why we think this is justified, obviously there's been a huge amount of development. It's been a year in the making, this functionality. The reason why we think it's justified is we do have some customers who are already using the system for doing compliance evaluations, things like that, which this is a shoo-in for. And they're sitting on a starter plan because they have low volumes traditionally, because they don't do many evaluations, but when they do them, they charge tens of thousands of dollars for them. And they pay us $3 for a response, and it drives the whole process. So it's just going to be a giant improvement in the way people can work, and it's worth the money. And our prices have always been considerably lower than what's in the marketplace, and we've always delivered more value, and this takes it up a huge further step. So that's why we've increased the prices. We think it's still cheap for what it does. And when you consider there's a lot of buzz around AI, and, we've played with ChatGPT and most people love it now, but we have looked at other systems that have AI in it. It's all a bit meh usually, but this, when you start looking at doing this sort of thing with it, you sort of think, yeah, there's real value here. And there's been a lot of development, and the people who get the improvement in the way their business works, they can pay a bit more for it. It's just fair. We do have a bit of problem with the month-on, month-off things, and people sort of turning it on for a month, doing a whole lot, and then turning it off for 3 months. We sort of want to avoid that, really, because there's obviously a support cost to running this as well. But if it turns out to be a huge barrier, we'll look at it again. We're always commercial, as you all know.
Excellent. This is quite a good one. Can a user get AI assistance while filling in the assessment, not only at the end after completing the entire assessment? Almost like an AI as you go.
Interesting idea.
I did think that when I read it. Okay, quick one just on configuring the suggest prompts. Can you force AI Suggest to provide its feedback in the King's English rather than American English?
Of course. Put that in the prompt. And you just say, well, you could say the King's English. It might know what you mean, but if you said use British terminology, it would do that. No problem at all.
Right. That is all the questions. Thank you so much, everyone, for the wonderful engagement. It's been fantastic. It's been great to see the buzz and excitement around this feature. I'm personally excited. I know that Graham's excited as well. But yes, very, very keen to hear what you think. And if you would like to have a follow-up call, I'd really encourage you to just grab some time with Graham. Sorry, Graham, I'm going to ruin your calendar now. But yeah, you can book a demo through the usual methods through the website. And this has certainly given me the kick and motivation to polish up that cohort demo as well. So I'm going to make sure that that's ready so Graham can show that off to you guys as well. Thanks, cool. Graham, for the presentation, and enjoy the rest of your mornings, afternoons, and evenings, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.